I tell you, I spent all day yesterday working on book covers. And when I was going out for my walk yesterday, Brent Spiner told me brain to brain, and I don't know how accurate brain to brain is right now. But he said that because, well, I'm submitting my work on my two books, Silver Skies, the 1996 version, and Silver Skies, the Millennium, to my men as I work on it. I'm keep updating the outline. And I actually wrote a draft of of a large part of one of my scenes, which really characterizes my lead for Silver Skies, the Millennium. And Brent told me brain to brain that because I've submitted enough information to prove that I'm the author of the two books that Jesus has already given to Steven Spielberg. This is what I'm hearing. This is really wild, but it must be true because I'm not hearing from my men. Brent told me, brain to brain, he said that Jesus gave to Steven Spielberg the finished copy of my two novels, Silver Skies 1996 version and Silver Skies the Millennium, and that Steven has been making the movies from those books. You might say, well, you already wrote Silver Skies. Yeah, but Silver Skies, the one that I wrote, was rewrites based on my 1996 version, which stunk. I had basically forgotten my creative writing skills, but when I was working on the book in the 1990s, I was a fresh graduate of the Institute of Children's Literature. My teacher was excellent. It was Jim Murphy, an award-winning children's writer. And I had all that fresh in my mind. And then I also read tons of books on the craft of writing, and I was applying what I learned as I read them to the novel, and it was excellent, really good. And I remember I was trying to write in third person limited point of view, and I was applying what I was learning about plotting and characterization, and I did a really, really good job. In fact, I picked up what I wrote in the 1990s cold after I hadn't looked at it, and I couldn't put it down. And I mistakenly thought that I needed to polish it up and get it ready. I thought, well, I knew Steven Spielberg had already made the movie, but he made the movie based on my 1996 version, not on my polishes. So my guess is that the movie that he made used the dialogue and the characterizations from the 1990s version, which is what Spielberg read, which was very good. And so if you see the movie, more than likely, the movie was probably better than the book. You say, well, the movie hasn't gone mainstream. That's because the Jesuits control Hollywood, and they would not allow the movie to go mainstream because it would make me a world famous, respectable writer. And whoa, if I would be that with my King David genetic profile, and by Catherine the Great genetic profile, because I oppose the Jesuits or the evil Jesuits' goals. I believe that every nation should be independent and not part of the global New World Order. And basically, the novel Silver Skies is against the New World Order. It's about the Antichrist and how he's going to set up a New World Order and how it's going to be the most horrific and horrible order in all of human history. And that's why they hate my book. And what I did is I got about 2/3 of the way through with it, and then I found out about Laurie McBride, and I got writer's block, and I just put the book in the closet and quit working on it. I mean, I just gave up on it because I never wrote for money. It was a labor of love for Brent Spiner, and I created a character. I created the characters to honor what I felt was this out of this world love, the long distance love affair that I had with Brent Spiner, and it was out of this world. I lost faith in that love in 1996 when I found out about Laurie McBride because I did not realize at that time she was a Vatican agent. I knew Brent didn't love her. And I knew he called me on the phone and made love to me with longings and tenderness and passion. And she just didn't make any sense. So I was very confused. But I lost my desire to write a masterpiece for Brent and it stayed in the closet. And I never really relearned my writing skills till starting about a year ago, my fiction writing skills. You'd be amazed. If you don't keep working at your writing, you will lose your your skills. You will lose it. And that's what happened to me. And sadly, what happened is when I realized that Spielberg made a movie based on my 1996 version, I decided the public would probably want to have the novel, though I hadn't written the last third. So I kind of tacked on a Deus Ex Machina ending, which ruined the book. I mean, it ruined this masterpiece. Not only that, I went through the manuscript and I rewrote scenes and made them worse. You say, well, what'd you do that for? Well, I wanted to polish it up and make it seem professional. But in so doing, what I did was I violated point of view. The third person limited point of view was working brilliantly in the novel, but I bought a book on point of view and I read it kind of carelessly. And I mistakenly thought that I had written Silver Sky's 1996 version in omniscient point of view. I did not. I realize that now. Third person point of view is kind of tricky because you can go really deep into it where you really stay inside the character's head and you don't go at all into any other character's head, or you can pull back a little bit and be almost omniscient where you still stay inside that character's head, but you take a more of a broader sweep of what's around him. And that's pretty much when I wrote the Silver Skies 1996 version, I did third person limited, but sometimes I'd go in, sometimes I'd pull out and get more of a broader view, but I always stayed inside the character's head. And readers don't notice when you lapse from your point of view. I mean, all they know is the writing doesn't interest them anymore. But in order for the readers to identify with the characters, you don't want to violate point of view. You may say, well, there are really good books out there written in omniscient. Yes, they are. But omniscient point of view, to be done well, and this is something I learned in the Institute of Children's Literature, to be done well, you need to usually be an experienced writer. It takes practice. Like Colleen McCullough does it brilliantly in The Thornbirds, but I find to be done well, the omniscient point of view has to come off like it's almost like it's third person limited. And you have to have a real instinct as a writer to know when you need to close in on characters and just focus on what's inside of them. And personal opinion, I think that if you don't need omniscient, oh, Lori McBride gave me a cough spasm. She's dropping bombs over my head, and they just make me cough sometimes. I get cough spasms, and then I choke on water all the time. Her brain control and her bombs are terrible. But as I was saying, if you don't need omniscient, it's usually better not to use it because it's very hard, I've discovered, to write omniscient well. You have to have a real instinct to know when it's time to go inside a character's head, which character's heads to go into. And if you go into too many characters' heads in one scene, the reader just feels like they're going all over the place and they don't really bind themselves to inside the heart of any of the characters. And they don't really, it's like, and even if you write beautiful prose, that you use omniscient in order to draw attention to the prose and not to the plot or the characters, that's boring too. It's kind of like the writing's fluffy. And I did a little bit of that in the rewrites that I did to Silver Skies. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back and rework Silver Skies using the manuscript that I couldn't put down when I read it. Basically, I'm not going to touch it. It's perfect. The only areas where I'm going to modify it is where I have to tweak it in order to get the middle to match, to work, to give the middle the buildup it needs for the end. Like certain things that I have to put into the middle, that I have to change in the middle to make the ending work. See, the ending I slapped on was they all got raptured, and that was like a Deus Ex Machina, even though I had a fake rapture scene earlier to prepare for that. And in my original version, I was planning on having them raptured, but I actually got writer's block after that because I couldn't get it to work. So my original outline, my intention was to put Dor and Brianna into the tribulation, but I wasn't sure how I could do that without violating scripture, because I wanted the book to be true to the Bible, because I am a premillennial dispensational in my Bible approach, which is the approach I feel you should take to the Bible if you believe it literally, and you only think something is symbolic in the Bible when the Bible says it's symbolic. So when I read Revelation, I read it literally, and premillennial means that I believe that the rapture happens before the millennium, and that the tribulation happens before the millennium, the 7-year tribulation. But I'm not going to go off on a tangent right now. If you want to know my theological views, listen to Andy Woods. I agree with him about 95% on Bible prophecy. But for my research, I'm actually listening to a whole bunch of preachers, including one right now who's a charismatic who believes in the pre-mill. He believes that the tribulation and rapture happen before the millennium, but he thinks the rapture happens at the end of the tribulation and that the church goes into the tribulation. I don't believe that because what about Daniel's 70th week? Anyways, it's too complicated to go into here on this. Like I said, if you want to, when you go to my Silver Skies pages, I actually have links to some of the teachers of Bible prophecy that I'm using for my research for this book. So basically, I ruined it, okay? I ruined my book. And so I'm going to rewrite it using the skills, the writing skills that I had in the 1990s. I'm rereading. I did buy all the writing craft books that I read. I bought them about 10 years ago, that I read when I was working on Silver Skies. I remembered which books were the most helpful to me. And I have a page about those books. It'll be underneath this video for those who are interested. But yesterday when I was going my walk, Brent told me that Jesus had, now that I'd given Brent and my men enough of the manuscripts, Jesus allowed my book to be published in Russian, and now it's being published in English. And I thought, wow, I haven't even made the cover yet. And I said, how in the world well, Jesus knows the future. So he just whipped the book up, the future book that I haven't even written, and he's already got it out there. I'm not sure why, but, and so I thought, wow, I really ought to make a cover for this book. So I made it took me all day. Amazon has changed their format for independent publishers like me. And now to make the cover the way I want it, I have to, but the good news is they have a template which you can download. And you tell Amazon how many pages your book will be, and then I upload the template into GIMP using layering. I make my book cover, then I flatten the image and save it as a PDF file. And that's what it took me all day though, because I'm not used to working with their template. And I'm still not sure I have it down, but I did create 2 book covers, one for Silver Skies the Millennium and one for Silver Skies 1996 version. And I tried to create a cover that would let the reader know what kind of a book this is. I didn't want to make I didn't want the cover though to just be a distraction from my main purpose is for the reader to go into my book and lose themselves into the story, which is when I read Silver Skies, the 1996 version, I read it off of a double-spaced printer paper. And I couldn't put it down. I kept flopping the sheets thinking, wow, this is good, this is good. So I've learned if you write well enough, you can, even if your cover is not the best. So I want the cover basically to let the reader know this is a magical realism or Christian fantasy novel, and I've succeeded in doing that, I believe. So enjoy. That's the reason I'm letting you see the covers as I'm speaking. So you go ahead and check out the links. The cover's made. Jesus, from what I understand, the books, I'm hearing brain to brain. That's why my men haven't talked to me, because Jesus already put the book out. Apparently, he thinks it might help with these elections or something, because I'm exposing that Laurie McBride is actually a type of the Antichrist, and I'm exposing what the world will be like when she is in charge. And believe me, it will be a mess.